We got a pretty nice look at Scalebound at E3. It's looking pretty promising, and I'm looking forward to that game. Of course, not due out till next year, but I think it's going to be good when it finally comes out. But one of the things they did reveal is that it can have cooperative multiplayer, and now we actually know that it can support co-op multiplayer from start to finish. And obviously we all know that it supports 4 players, each partner with their own dragon, and they can team up and do all sorts of shenanigans. Thankfully though, game designer Hideki Kamiya and creative producer JP Kellum spoke with Polygon about how exactly the multiplayer component of Scalebound is going to work. And Kamiya said, quote, "Co-op works throughout the campaign. You can play by yourself if you'd like to, you can play with your friends whenever you like. It's not a mode. A lot of people have asked us if it's just for bosses, but it's for the entire campaign." Now, some of you might be wondering, well, are there going to be lobbies or anything like that? And the answer seems no. And this comes from Kellums, and he said, quote, "I hate lobbies, and there's no Japanese multiplayer game that has a good lobby, so you can fully expect that Scalebound will not use lobbies." Now some of you might be wondering, well, what are the incentives? Do you get rewards? So for example, like, you know, say Dark Souls 1, 2 or 3, you can obviously team up for bosses or for sections of the game and just help players through, get some extra souls, scout the area, that sort of thing. So are there going to be any sort of rewards in place for co-op play? And Kamiya said, quote, "We don't want to make a game where you have to play the multiplayer to beat it, but we don't want single player to be a totally different beast. What's more important is designing the combat encounters to encourage you to play multiplayer and reward you for playing multiplayer. For instance, in the boss we showed you on Monday, if you played that in single player, you'd be really busy because all the different attacks happening, but when you play it in co-op, everybody can split up and do different things." So it does sound like you can beat the bosses on your own, but if you perhaps want someone to draw aggro and do a bit more damage, that sort of thing, say similar to Dark Souls, then you can indeed do multiplayer. I just really hope it's not skewed too much in the favour of multiplayer. I know encouraging to play multiplayer is one thing, but I don't want to be feeling like, you know, this is kind of really a chore unless you're playing it in multiplayer. That's not what I want from this experience, so I'm a little bit concerned by his comments, but we'll have to see, of course, how the gameplay turns out. Now, Kellums added, quote, "One of the big elements of that togetherness is being able to show off your dragon in co-op. As you spend so much time riding through the world, fighting these bosses, customizing your dragon, and then getting into co-op and showing off your dragon, having conversations like, what armor is that? Where'd you get that skin? When you're evolving your dragon, players will ask, how'd you get that horn? What breath is that? All those experiences will be part of the metagame of communication on how to build the best dragon for your playstyle." And Kamiya finished up by saying, quote, "Scalebound is not purely an action game. It's not just about your own technique. If you hit a difficulty wall, instead of the game saying, hey, get good, the game tells you, if you go and grind, get some loot, build up your character and come back to this, maybe you can overcome it." So that sense of gameplay progression and tying into loot in that way has been a lot of fun to make. And as I said, Scalebound is looking really promising. I'm a little bit concerned about how exactly, you know, how much we're quote-unquote encouraged to play the multiplayer. I do hope the game is fully enjoyable and all that in single player. Obviously, you can play it in single player, as you said, but I just wonder if perhaps it's been skewed too much in the favour of multiplayer, or perhaps not. We're going to have to see. We're only going to find this out when we actually get our hands on the game. I'm a little bit curious to see how exactly this is going to work. I'm not going to say I'm never going to use the multiplayer because, well, that would be a lie, but I would probably going to be spending most of my time in this game on the single player, so it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. The idea of customizing your dragon sounds pretty damn awesome, and the giant boss fight also looks pretty awesome. So, as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything discussed here. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.